Another day, another lack of certainty to who's going to be under center for the Steelers in 2025. Pittsburgh has been in a prolonged pursuit of former Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers, who has yet to make a decision about his playing future as the Steelers began OTAs on Tuesday. Pittsburgh's four-time Super Bowl winning quarterback Terry Bradshaw shared his distaste in the team's handling of the quarterback issues in a radio interview on Tuesday. Here's what Bradshaw had to say on the Steelers potentially signing Aaron Rodgers, saying, quote, "That's a joke. That to me is just a joke. What are you going to do? Bring him in for 1 year? Are you kidding me? That guy needs to stay in California, go somewhere and chew on bark and whisper to the gods out there." Oof, some strong words there from the Hall of Fame quarterback. Go chew some bark, as we are now joined by CBS Sports NFL analysts Wilson and John Breech. Fellas, it seems like patience is wearing a bit thin out there in Pittsburgh, at least on the outside, as the Steelers' offseason workouts are underway, and still plenty of question marks surrounding their signal caller, or maybe lack thereof. But Ryan, Terry Bradshaw, extremely critical of their recent moves. He mentioned them mishandling Kenny Pickett also in that interview, and then calls signing Aaron Rodgers a joke. Do you agree with his comments when looking at the future of the Steelers?
Hey, Kiana. Hey, Breech. Good to see you guys. I consider myself an old person, and I am not familiar with the go eat bark lingo, so I'll have to put that down in the little bingo card.
What that meant. No one
rubbing
knew.
that out. Yeah, so I'm trying that out on the kids and see what they think about that. That was a new one for me. Terry Bradshaw isn't necessarily wrong, and he is largely responsible for those 4 Super Bowls the Steelers won in the 70s and 80s, so he does deserve some respect. Darius Slay, who they just signed in the offseason to play cornerback, said today that it's very important to be at OTAs to build team chemistry and all the other things we talk about this time of year. Terry lost me when he said, "I like Kenny Pickett," because I got to pump the brakes there. But I think there is something to the idea that Aaron Rodgers probably should show up. And the counter argument, and maybe Breech will make this argument, is that when Aaron Rodgers shows up anywhere, he's like Tim Tebow and Johnny Manziel. It's going to be a circus. So maybe he's trying to put things off as long as possible. He's 41 years old. He doesn't need a lot of reps, so on and so forth. But I would argue that this Steelers team has been quarterbackless essentially since Big Ben retired. And Aaron Rodgers showing up for a year, as Terry Bradshaw suggests, isn't wrong. And then you have to go back to the drawing board and figure out where the quarterback situation is going to be in 2026. So there's a lot to sort out. I will say this, Breech, Mason Rudolph with that mustache and those clips we just watched looked like Aaron Rodgers, so maybe that's as close as we're going to get for now.
Hey, well, maybe Mason Rudolph is going to go eat bark somewhere tonight. Look, when you have Terry Bradshaw telling you to go eat bark, that is when you know your QB position has hit rock bottom. This is not usually the drama we see. The Steelers is one of the most professional organizations in football. The Blue Bloods, they don't usually deal with stuff like this. So to see all this drama happening, and not just that, you have TJ Watt skipping out on OTAs to a contract situation, and Terry Bradshaw isn't even the first person of the Steelers organization to complain about Aaron Rodgers stuff. We saw Cam Hayward say earlier this year, hey, look, if you want to be here, you need to be here, and Aaron Rodgers isn't. But the flip side is that if Aaron Rodgers had signed a contract in April and then skipped OTAs and minicamp, it would have been an even bigger deal like it was last year with the Jets. So I think if you're Aaron Rodgers and you didn't want to go OTAs, you're not under contract. Why sign a contract and skip workouts? Just don't sign a contract. And the one thing about Aaron Rodgers that I think we all know, he's a little bit petty. And when he does sign with the Steelers, you know what number he wears? He wears number 12. You know what number Terry Bradshaw wore in Pittsburgh? Number 12. You know what number's not retired yet, Ryan? Number 12. That would be the ultimate Aaron Rodgers revenge play, to fly into Pittsburgh in the next week, say, I'm wearing number 12, sign me up, let's go to practice.
Petty Patricia is what we're calling Aaron Rodgers. I mean, it's not too far-fetched, but then I think about, it wasn't just about probably a year ago. We were sitting right here and we were talking about Jets OTAs, and I feel like we had a similar conversation about him not showing up there. So maybe he's just relieving himself of all the drama, like, look, I don't want these cameras and these questions in my face asking why am I not here. I'm going to go chew on some bark and I'll be back for training camp. Who knows? But it's yet to be seen. But fellas, you know who's not worried about their quarterback being in the building? The Browns. Well, except for they have too many quarterbacks in the building, including, hey, we just heard about him talking about Kenny Pickett, who Ryan not the biggest fan of, but Terry Bradshaw very fond of in Pittsburgh. But here's Cleveland 19 sports reporter Ashley Holder on the latest on the quarterback conundrum from the Browns OTAs.
Today was the first day that we were able to see a packed Browns quarterback room hit the field during OTAs. Kenny Pickett, Joe Flacco, Shedeur Sanders, and Dillon Gabriel. Now, what we saw during practice was that the veterans took more of the lead when it came to those first team reps and drills. So we saw a lot of Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett. Pickett said while there is a hefty competition between these four guys, the outside world seems to make it a bigger deal than they do. He said they've all been able to build a good friendship and help one another inside that quarterback room. But Pickett does understand that there's a starting position wide open for the Browns right now, and he plans to practice like it's his.
I just always approached every day as if I'm the starter, no matter where I was on the depth chart. So even when I was in Philly, I would prepare as if I was a starter because, you never know when that opportunity was going to be to go play. And, you want to be as prepared as you can be. So I'm kind of having the same mindset that I've always had since college of coming in, preparing like I'm the guy. So, whatever happens, it's just another day because I always had that same mindset.
He's a guy that works extremely hard at his craft. I love the way he thinks about the game. He's very, very tough. So he's doing a nice job.
While Kevin Stefanski likes what he sees in Pickett, Stefanski reiterated that there is no particular order in how he lines these quarterbacks up.
We're mixing it up every single day. So that's why I tell you not to read much into it, even though you guys don't listen to me. But we're just trying to get guys exposure to different concepts, those type of things. So it varies by walkthrough. It can vary by drill. It's not something that we're really we're not leaning into or worried about the order at this moment.
Notable players not here today: Jack Conklin, David Njoku, Joe Bitonio, and Myles Garrett. Stefanski said, look, these are voluntary workouts, so it does not bother him that these guys are not in attendance today. For now in Berea, Ashley Holder, 19 News.
Ashley saying no particular order for Kevin Stefanski. He said, don't read into it too much, but Breech, I think we got to read into it because how well equipped do you think Kevin Stefanski and the Browns are to handle this dynamic that they created with all 17 quarterbacks they have on the roster?
Well, if he's taking tips from Terry Bradshaw, Kenny Pickett's going to be the starter because apparently, as Ryan mentioned, Bradshaw is the president of the Kenny Pickett fan club. I don't know that Kevin Stefanski is going to feel the same way. But the one thing about Stefanski is if there's a coach in the NFL who I trust to make a decision in kind of a 4 QB battle, it is Kevin Stefanski. You look what happened in 2023. The Browns QB room was in total disarray. They used 5 different starters that year: Joe Flacco, Deshaun Watson, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, Jeff Driscoll, P.J. Walker. And despite using all those quarterbacks, they still made the playoffs. So Kevin Stefanski has proven that he can do well no matter who he has under center. Wasn't as successful in 2024 when he also had to play a bunch of quarterbacks. But you have a bunch of skilled guys. And I think the one thing that really helps the Browns is that you don't have to worry about Deshaun Watson. There was always a pressure to play him. So I think Stefanski's going to go out there. He's going to play the best quarterback, the true winner of this competition. I do feel like it's probably going to be Joe Flacco early on, but I won't be surprised if one of the rookies steals the job and ends up playing later in the season. But I do think Kevin Stefanski is well equipped to handle this.
No, that's exactly right, Breech. We forget, Kiana, that the Browns under Stefanski have won 11 games twice. He's been named Coach of the Year twice, and he's done it with an array of quarterbacks. And by the way, you could have offered me $10 million to name P.J. Walker and Jeff Driscoll as the other 2 starting quarterbacks in 2023, and I would have lost $10 million. Great pull by Breech there. The other issue is this. This is the exact opposite concern that the Steelers have. And no one is better equipped to echo what Breech said than Kevin Stefanski to not only deal with turmoil, but to deal with quarterbacks and to coordinate up an offense and put the quarterbacks in position to have success, whether it's Joe Flacco, who's nearing 40, or whether it's 2 rookies in Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders. We'll see where Kenny Pickett shakes out. It wouldn't surprise me if one of these veterans, and I'm probably leaning towards Kenny Pickett, ends up getting traded before the season starts. But I think the overall point, if you're talking about Stefanski and the Browns in this offense, they drafted 2 running backs. They're going to lean on the run game. And they drafted Mason Graham and then Carson Schlesinger, a defensive lineman and a linebacker, in the first round and then at the top of the second round. So they're going to lean on their defense along with Myles Garrett. So whoever the quarterback ends up being, the idea is to make their life easy with a much better defense, and they should be better than last year when they got after his pass rushers, and also with an improved running game now that Nick Chubb has moved on after suffering that injury 2 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're only at the beginning of OTA, still got training camp, plenty of battles. Anything can change. You guys mentioned trades, so still yet to be seen what's going down in Cleveland. But guys, we've talked about plenty of unknowns. How about we switch gears to something that's certain? The Bears. They have their quarterback of the future, right? Well, eyebrows were raised when Caleb Williams and his father, Carl, expressed some concerns about joining the Bears heading into last year's draft process. Williams went on record on Wednesday to clear up any confusion.
You know, all of those were thoughts. And then after I came on my visit here, it was a deliberate answer and deliberate and determined answer that I had is that I wanted to come here. And just like Ben spoke about, obviously, you know, the past years, as everybody knows, it's a fact that quarterback play, there hasn't been a 4,000-yard passer. There's, you know, there's all these different things that come up. And so, you know, being able to have those thoughts is I think, fair to be able to have, you know, good and bad thoughts. But like I said, I came here on a visit. And like I said, just like Ben said, you know, it's a challenge. To be able to come in here and try and turn around. And that was the main goal of all of that, is to, you know, through all of, you know, what was, you know, going on, through all of what happened in you know, last year and previous years, you know, I think that was enticing. I think that was something that was glaring to me, that, you know, I wanted to come here and, you know, be the guy and be a part and be a reason on why you know, Chicago Bears turn this thing around. So that last thing that was said and all of that, I think, was the most important thing, is that I wanted to be here, that I love being here, I love my teammates, you know, I love all the people that got me here.
Caleb Williams saying the post years, I mean, they're a fact. He said it's fair to have those kind of thoughts. Some people say that Chicago's a place where quarterbacks go to die. So he did have that idea in his mind going into this. But Ryan, what do you make of how Caleb Williams is handling this situation out in Chicago?
He's doing great. Look, man, here's the thing. So let's say you're about to get married. You can't have any questions about the person you're supposed to marry, that the person have any questions about you. And they just happen to say it to their parents, and the parent somehow got leaked into the book that we're now talking about. The other thing is this. When Caleb Williams was deciding about whether he wanted to go to Chicago or not, Matt Eberflus was the coach. He is no longer the coach. Shane Waldron was the OC. He lasted 6 weeks. It's fair to have concerns about what your future might look like in an offense that doesn't have Lincoln Riley dialing up the plays. And then you go from that to Ben Johnson. Okay, I would imagine that Caleb Williams and his father and everyone else in his family can get on board with that. And look, Caleb didn't have the season that Jaden Daniels had, didn't have the season that even Bo Nix had, but a large part of that was the inconsistency from the top down with the head coach and the OC, who didn't last more than a month and a half. And I think that's going to change. We saw a better Caleb over the last month of the season, and I think that's going to snowball into what we all expected to happen early last year into happening early this year with Ben Johnson. So I have no issue at all with this, and I would imagine you could ask any Bears fan, including our buddy Joe Musso, hey, do you want to give Caleb Williams back? And the resounding answer would be absolutely not. We're fine.
Ryan, to use your marriage analogy, this would be like being married for a year, and then that stuff leaks out. Because remember, this happened after his first year, and then it leaks out that you actually wanted to marry the maid of honor. How's your wife going to feel about that? Because remember, part of this leak was that Caleb Williams said he wanted to play for the Vikings. I think that part is the gut punch if you're a Bears fan, that not only did he not want to play for the Bears, but he wanted to play for one of their biggest rivals in Minnesota. So I think besides that, everything else he said was okay and also true. The team hasn't had a 4,000-yard passer. Quarterbacks have not had a great history in Chicago. When you look at the Super Bowl era, you're looking at Jim McMahon, Jay Cutler. It's not a long list of players that he's going to have to beat out if he wants to be the face of this organization really for the rest of time, because that will happen if he wins a Super Bowl. And as you said, some of this kind of said, he said, hey, I wouldn't work with Shane Waldron, who was the offensive coordinator last year. He's not there anymore. Matt Eberflus, not there anymore. So I don't think anyone on the current coaching staff should be offended by anything he said. Everyone should be looking forward because he's clearly happy there now. And then also just make his dad the fall guy. Blame everything on him. Say, hey, my dad said some crazy stuff. I didn't agree with it. I love the Bears. I want to be in Chicago. He's handling this the right way.
Guys, can I just say I'm thoroughly enjoying the marriage analogies here. It makes so much more sense. But hey, like the kids say, he's spot on there. What's up, Ryan?
I want to add one last thing in terms of the Vikings point. How did Sam Darnold turn out with the Vikings last year? It ends up that the maid of honor turned up to be Jennifer Aniston, and you end up being the person who can't get a job and is unemployed. So maybe he was right about that too.
As we continue with these marriage analogies, I'm here for it. I'm here. It makes so much sense. As always, Ryan Wilson, John Breech, let's do this again sometime, okay? Let's keep with the off-season drama. I'm loving it. Thanks, fellas. So Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams hoping to put an end to this drought. 105 seasons, to be exact. The Bears have never had a 4,000-yard passer. Williams did hit the 4K mark his rookie season between both passing and rushing yards. One thing that will help, a revamped offensive line. Williams was sacked 69 times last year. That's tied for the third most all time.